2008, Rockstar Games released Grand Theft Auto 4, a game that the world expected to be a bigger, louder and more explosive version of what came before. What they got instead was something nobody saw coming. A main character with genuine trauma, genuine grief, and genuine moral weight. His name was Niko Bellic. In these 18 years since the game's release, he has never been surpassed as the greatest written protagonist in the history and stands as one of the most psychologically complex characters in all of the gaming. This is his story, and this is why he matters.
Life is complicated. I killed people, smuggled people, sold people. Perhaps here, things will be different.
To understand Niko Bellic, you have to understand where he came from. You have to go back to a small Serbian village in Yugoslavia, circa 1978. That is where it all begins. Niko was born into a household already broken before he could understand what that meant. His father was an abusive alcoholic, and so was his uncle, Roman's father. Both men lived next door to each other. Both men beat their wives. Niko's mother, Niko Bellic, was described as a long-suffering woman who was deeply unhappy that her son was growing up in such a harsh place. Think about that for a moment. Before a single shot was fired in any war, before any betrayal, before Liberty City, Niko Bellic's earliest memories are of violence inside his own home, of watching the men in his life use their fists as tools of control that seeds something in a child, a learned numbness, a wall built early. In a conversation with Dwayne Forge during the events of GTA 4, Niko reveals that the place he grew up didn't even have electricity until he was 12 years old.
You can't ever know what it's like unless you've been real poor. I can't explain that shit.
Where I grew up, we had no electricity until I was 12.
In another conversation, this time with Patrick McCrary, we learned that Niko had an older brother who was killed during the Yugoslav Wars.
I saw my brother get killed a long time ago. He was a good friend of Roman's too. We never speak about it. I'm sorry. I knew you could understand that grief.
And then perhaps one of the most quietly devastating pieces of backstory in the game, Niko tells Kate McCrary that after his cousin Roman left for America, he discovered that Roman's mother, his aunt, had been raped and murdered. Niko covered up the truth. He told Roman she had died in a house fire because he knew Roman couldn't survive knowing the reality. That is not the act of a cold man. That is the act of someone who has seen so much horror that he has become its reluctant guardian, carrying pain so others don't have to. Niko once told someone that as a child he dreamed of becoming an astronaut. That detail, small and almost thrown away, is one of the most humanizing moments in the entire game because it tells us that at some point before everything there was a boy who looked up at the stars and imagined a different life. The Yugoslavia that Niko grew up in was fracturing. By the early 1990s, the country was tearing itself apart. The Yugoslav Wars, among the bloodiest conflicts in Europe since World War II, had begun, and Niko Bellic, still a teenager, would be pulled directly into the center of them. Niko joined the military as a teenage soldier. The Yugoslav Wars took place between 1991 and 1995. Which means he was somewhere between 13 and 17 years old when he first picked up a weapon in service of a cause he was too young to fully understand. He served as an infantryman, a helicopter pilot, and even drove tanks during the conflicts. He wasn't alone. His unit was made up of 15 soldiers, most of them boys from his own hometown, friends, neighbors, people he had grown up with, and together they did things that wars force people to do. Rockstar never shies away from this. They do not present Niko as an innocent bystander swept up in events beyond his control. He participated, he witnessed atrocities, and it is heavily implied he committed some of his own. The scene that crystallizes all of this, the scene that every person who has played GTA 4 remembers, comes during the mission rigged to blow. Niko is sitting with Elena Faustin, the wife of his employer, Mikhail Faustin, drinking tea. It is unexpectedly quiet, intimate moments in the middle of chaotic game. Elena speaks about how Mikhail used to be beautiful, happy, and full of life, before something changed in him, and Niko recognizing something of himself. And then Elena asks him about his own past, and what follows is one of the most raw, honest monologues in video game history.
Life is complicated. I never thought I'd live like this.
No?
When the war came, I did bad things. And after the war, I thought nothing of doing bad things. I killed people, smuggled people, sold people.
Elena asks him gently if he worries about his soul, and Niko responds,
After you walk into a village, and you see 50 children, all sitting neatly in a row against the church wall, each with their throats cut and their hands chopped off, you realize that the creature that could do this doesn't have a soul.
That line is extraordinary, because on the surface it reads as Niko deflecting, refusing to answer whether he worries about his own soul by pointing at something worse. But look at it more carefully. He says the creature that could do this doesn't have a soul. He is using that imagery, something he witnessed, as a measuring stick, as if to say, whatever I am, whatever I did, I am not that. I still have something left. That is not called emptiness. That is a man desperately holding onto the thinnest thread of his own humanity. Now, let's speak about the betrayal. At some point near the end of Niko's time in the war, his unit of 15 was ambushed by enemy forces. 12 of the 15 were killed. Most of them were people Niko had known his entire life. Friends from his village, boys he had grown up beside. Friends from his village, boys he had grown up with. The 3 survivors were Niko, Florian Kravik, and Darko Previc. And Niko heard a rumor that someone in the unit had sold them out, that the ambush wasn't random, that somebody had told the enemy exactly where they would be. 12 people. 12 people Niko knew by name, by face, by childhood memory, were dead because someone in his own squad traded their lives for stupid money. He didn't know if it was Florian or Darko, but the question consumed him, and that question, that burning decade-long question, becomes the entire engine of GTA 4's story. The wars ended, Yugoslavia collapsed, and Niko Bellic was left in the ruins of a country that no longer exists, without work, without direction, and carrying the weight of everything he had done and seen. His cousin Roman had already left for America in 1998, chasing the dream of Liberty City's streets paved with gold. Niko stayed behind, and knowing only violence, knowing only survival, he drifted into the Balkanic criminal underworld. He did at least one prison stint in Europe. Then he went to work for Ray Bulgarin, a powerful Russian crime lord, as a human trafficker, smuggling people across Adriatic Sea from Eastern Europe into Italy. It was ugly, brutal work, the kind of work that only makes sense when every other door has been shut. And then it went wrong. The boat sank in the Adriatic. Niko swam to safety. Everyone else was lost. Bulgarin accused Niko of intentionally sinking the ship to steal his money. It wasn't true, but Bulgarin's reach in Europe was enormous. Niko couldn't fight it, so he ran. He joined the merchant navy to get out of Bulgarin's reach and spent 7 months aboard a cargo ship. Roman was still writing to him, still spinning these elaborate stories about Liberty City, the penthouse apartments, the women, the money. And Niko, with nowhere else to go, with Bulgarin hunting him and old ghosts hunting him, made a decision. He would go to America. He would find Florian and Darko. He would get his answer, and maybe, just maybe, he would finally be able to move on. That was the plan. That was the dream. But reality, as always, had other ideas. When Niko Bellic arrives in Liberty City in 2008, his cousin Roman is waiting for him, and almost immediately the illusion shatters. Roman does not live in a penthouse, he does not have multiple women, he is not rich, he lives in a small decrepit apartment in Half Beach, drives a run-down taxi, and owes gambling debts to dangerous people across the city. But Niko doesn't abandon him. He gets in the cab, he starts working, he protects Roman from loan sharks, because for all his damage, for all the walls he has built, Niko Bellic loves his cousin. And that love, messy, complicated, sometimes frustrated, is one of the most authentic relationships in gaming. It's one of the most human. The contrast between Roman and Niko is what makes both of them work. Roman is a fantasist, warm, generous with stories, deeply insecure underneath all of it. Niko is a realist, blunt, cynical, but desperately hoping that Roman's stupid optimism might somehow be contagious. Dan Houser, one of GTA 4's writers, described them as a double act, Roman's charm playing off Niko's tough cynicism. He said that they couldn't be brothers. It needed the slight distance of cousins to make the dynamic work. And from this starting point, helping Roman, dealing with local Russian mob figures like the volatile Mikhail Faustin and his scheming lieutenant Dmitry Raskolov, Niko is pulled deeper and deeper into Liberty City's criminal ecosystem. He works for everyone: the Irish-American McCrary crime family, the Albanian gang, Elisabetta Torres, Playboy X, Dwayne Forge, the Pigorno crime family, the United Liberty Paper Agency, a front for the government itself, who blackmail him into doing work that supposedly protects his country. At every turn, Niko tries to resist. He knows what his life does to people. He has lived it. He has seen what violence leaves behind. And yet, the trap keeps closing, because Liberty City, for all its gleaming skyscrapers and talk of freedom, works the same way the Balkans did. The powerful use the desperate, and the desperate have no choice but to comply. What makes Niko different from almost every other GTA protagonist is that he is aware of the cycle. He doesn't romanticize it, he doesn't enjoy the violence, he endures it. And that self-awareness, that constant quiet despair beneath the action is what elevates the writing to something literary. There is a moment in the game, speaking with Roman after killing, where Niko says,
I don't know. I just want to know why they did it.
he is talking about Florian and Darko, but he could be talking about everything. About the war, about Bulgarian, about every man who has used him and thrown him away. The question underneath every action in this game is the same. Why? Why does it always come to this? Why is survival always paid for in blood? After years of working for Liberty City's criminal underworld, Niko finally gets his leads. The first man he finds is Florian Kravik, who has completely reinvented himself. He now calls himself Bernie Crane, has come out as gay, and is living a relatively peaceful life in Liberty City, secretly in a relationship with the city's deputy mayor. And in a scene that could have been played for easy drama, but instead lands with a quiet devastation.
What happened to you?
Oh, I started working out. Toned up the,
Florian? You used to work in the abattoir?
Oh, don't remind me. Roman? You put on a few vanity pounds. What are you guys doing here? Why did you kick my door down?
I've come to ask you some questions.
It wasn't you, was it?
What wasn't me?
Who set us up? It was you or Darko. I thought it must be him. Oh my God. You think it was me? That's why you are here. You've come to kill me. Well, screw you, Niko Bellic and Fatty Roman. It wasn't me, it wasn't. I wouldn't do that.
Florian is innocent. He didn't sell them out. He spent years terrified that someone from his past could come looking for him. Yes, but he didn't do it. Which means it was Darko Breivik. With help from the United Liberty Paper Agency and crime boss John Gavelli, Darko Breivik is struck down in Bucharest and brought to Niko. And what follows is one of the most psychologically complex scenes in the game. Darko Breivik is a broken man, visibly destroyed by guilt, addiction, self-loathing, and in that moment, Niko asks him the question he has carried for 10 years.
Reci mi zašto?
Zašto?
Zato što smo bili prijatelji. Svi smo odrasli zajedno. Mitar, Dragan, Goran, Mio. Mogu da nastavim? Sviju, a?
Everything you believe is shown to be shit. You make strange choices.
Fuck you! Strange choices? How much?
$1,000. He sold the lives of 12 people, 12 of Niko's friends, for $1,000 because he was an addict, because he needed the money. And this is where the player is given a choice: kill Darko or let him live. If you let him live, Niko says something remarkable.
This is the moment you've been waiting for so long, Nick. What do you mean you don't know how you feel?
I mean, I don't know. I feel empty, okay? I feel empty.
That's something. At least.
No, Roman. It's nothing. The emptiness is what I was trying to get rid of by finding Darko. I've been empty ever since that day. I thought that revenge, killing Darko, might fill me up a bit, might give me some substance.
And it hasn't?
No, it hasn't.
This is not a game that tells you revenge is satisfying. Either choice, killing Darko or sparing him, leaves Niko feeling empty, because the revenge was never going to give him what he actually needed: the closure, the relief, the end of nightmares. Darko Brevic was never going to be able to give him that, and some part of Niko always knew it. GTA 4 ends in one of two ways, and both of them are tragedies. If the player chooses the deal ending, agreeing to help Dmitry Raskolov sell heroin in exchange for money, Dmitry betrays Niko one final time, sending a hitman to Roman's wedding.
Yes? Gift from Dmitry Raskolov.
Yo, Niko, Niko! Calm down, man. Easy.
Niko's cousin, his family, the reason he came to Liberty City, the one person who never stopped believing in him, dies.
Roman. I'm so sorry, cousin.
And Niko kills Raskolov not out of justice, but out of rage. But if the player chooses the revenge ending, refusing to work with Dmitry, going after him directly, Niko fights his way onto the platypus cargo ship and kills Raskolov, but Jimmy Pigorino, furious at the disruption, attempts a drive-by at the wedding.
You fucking double-crossing immigrant shit!
One out of this blood clot. Niko. Niko, come on. Somebody call an ambulance. Call a fucking ambulance!
She's dead!
The women Niko had been developing genuine feelings for, the women who represented something clean and honest in a life that had none. There is no happy ending. There is no version of the story where Niko Bellic walks away whole. That is the point. That is the thesis of the entire game. The American dream that Roman sold Niko on, the fresh start, that new life, was always going to be complicated by who Niko is and what he has done. You cannot outrun yourself. Not in Yugoslavia, not in Liberty City, not anywhere. Grand Theft Auto 5 is set 5 years after the events of GTA 4, and Niko Bellic, though he never appears on screen, leaves his footprints across the world. During GTA 5, if the player switches to Michael DeSanta at certain times, they can observe Michael's son Jimmy browsing the internet on his laptop, and he is looking at Niko Bellic's Live Invader page. This is a small detail, but it tells us something important. Niko exists in this world as a real person, living a quieter life, connected enough to Roman to have a social media presence. More explicitly, Lester Quest, the criminal mastermind behind the game's heists, mentions Niko by name when discussing potential crew members.
There was an Eastern European guy making moves in Liberty City, but he went quiet.
In a random encounter in GTA 5, the player can pick up Patrick McQuarrie, one of the McQuarrie brothers, who Niko worked with in GTA 4. Patrick, ever the emotional one, speaks about Niko to the player's character. He describes him as an ice-cold killer with the look of murder in his eyes, but says that despite all of that, the two of them became genuine friends. This is Niko Bellic's ending, not a heroic death, not a triumphant speech. He simply stopped. He put the gun down. He went quiet. He is living with Roman somewhere in Liberty City. Roman, now finally wealthy, both of them older and scared and still standing. It's not a fairy tale, but for a man who survived everything Niko survived, it is something close to peace. So what makes Niko Bellic great? What separates him from every protagonist who came before and after? It is this: Rockstar gave him contradictions and refused to resolve them. Niko is a killer and a protector. He is brutal and tender. He is cynical and desperate to believe in something better. He is a man who says the American dream is a lie in one breath and sacrifices everything for the people he loves in the next. He is someone who has done monstrous things and carries the weight of all of them. He doesn't get a redemption arc that erases his past. He doesn't get to become a hero. He just gets to be complicated, damaged, and most of all, real. Dan Houser said that Niko was designed to be a more rounded character than previous GTA protagonists, that his dual personality, capable of saving innocent people, equally capable of cold-blooded violence, was what made him relatable. And Houser was right, but the real genius goes deeper than that. Niko Bellic is the only GTA protagonist who the game itself seems to grieve for. The writing doesn't celebrate what he does, it mourns it. It says, look at this man, look at everything that shaped him, look at every door that was closed before he arrived, and then ask yourself, what else was he supposed to do? That is not the question most video games are willing to ask, and this is why 18 years later, people are still making videos, still writing essays, still replaying GTA 4 just to spend more time with him. Niko Bellic is not the most powerful GTA protagonist, or the most stylish, or the most violent. He is simply the most human, and in a series that has always used satire and spectacle to hold a mirror up to a modern society, it took one quietly broken man from Yugoslavia to hold the mirror up to something deeper. What does it cost a person to survive? Rockstar answered that question better than anyone ever has in a video game. And that is why Niko Bellic will never be forgotten.